Imagine being locked away from the world for 26 long years by the person who's supposed to love you the most, your own mother. This isn't a plot from a horror movie, but the chilling real-life tale of a French woman whose world was reduced to the cold, dank confines of her mother's basement. For nearly 3 decades, from the late 1960s until the early 90s, she existed in a space barely fit for human habitation, a prisoner in her own home, held captive by the woman who gave her life. Her name has been lost to the annals of time, her identity shrouded in mystery, yet her story continues to resonate, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most ordinary of facades. This tale unfolds in a quiet corner of France, far removed from the glamour of Paris or the sun-drenched coastlines of the French Riviera. It's a place where life moves at a slower pace, where neighbors know each other by name, and where a mother's unthinkable act of cruelty went unnoticed for more than a quarter of a century. In telling this story, we're not just recounting a tale of unimaginable abuse and imprisonment. We're also shedding light on a society that failed to see the signs, that failed to question the strange goings-on in their midst. We're peering into the darkness of a basement, and by extension, the darkness of the human soul. This tale of torment and isolation is a stark reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink. But it's also a testament to the indomitable spirit of survival. It's a story that forces us to confront the uncomfortable, to question the unthinkable, and to grapple with the horrors that can occur when love is distorted into something monstrous. So brace yourself as we delve into the gloomy abyss of this tale. Let's explore how this unimaginable story unfolded. Our story begins in a small town in France, with a seemingly ordinary family. A typical tableau of domestic life, a mother, a father, and their little girl. The girl, the focal point of our narrative, was born into a world that seemed normal on the surface. She was a child full of life and potential, oblivious to the darkness that lurked behind the facade of her family's home. Her mother, a woman of seemingly average disposition, was a figure of authority in the household. Her demeanor was often stern, but not alarmingly so. She was a strict disciplinarian, a trait often mistaken for her wanting the best for her child. However, beneath this veneer of maternal concern lay a more sinister reality. As the girl grew, the mother's behavior started to show signs of deviation. Small incidents, subtle enough to be dismissed as quirks or eccentricities, began to pile up. There were instances of unexplained anger, irrational fears, and extreme control over the child's life. She was obsessively protective, often isolating her daughter from the outside world. The family's friends and neighbors noticed these oddities, but chose to turn a blind eye, attributing them to the mother's unique parenting style. The father, a silent spectator in this unfolding drama, was largely absent from the girl's life. His lack of intervention, whether out of fear or indifference, allowed the mother's behavior to go unchecked. He became an enabler, his silence providing the perfect cover for the mother's escalating control and manipulation. As the years passed, the family's veneer of normalcy started to crack. The mother's behavior became increasingly erratic, her control over her daughter more oppressive. The girl, now a young woman, found herself trapped in a life she didn't understand, a prisoner in her own home. The seeds of a monstrous plan were sown in the mother's mind, a plan that would condemn her daughter to a life of unimaginable horror. However, the normalcy was about to shatter, plunging into a frightening abyss. The stage was set for a descent into darkness, a terrifying journey that would shock the world and forever change the lives of those involved. Suddenly, a young girl's life took a drastic turn as she was forced into a life of solitude and despair. A once vibrant and thriving existence was abruptly replaced by isolation and an oppressive silence that seemed to echo endlessly. As this young girl was pushed deeper into the abyss of loneliness, the world behind the cellar door started to fade away. The mother, the architect of this ordeal, was a woman whose actions were shrouded in mystery. Her motives for such a cruel act were nebulous, and her rationale was as unfathomable as it was horrifying. In the absence of any given reason, speculation swirls around the mother's mental state, her inability to love, or perhaps a twisted form of protection. One of the many theories suggested that the mother, herself a victim of a traumatic past, sought to control what she could not control in her own life. It was as if she was trying to freeze time, to keep her daughter in a state of perpetual childhood, away from the dangers and disappointments of the world. This theory was further fueled by the mother's apparent indifference towards her daughter's suffering. She remained unflinching in her resolve, justifying her actions with a chilling calmness that belied the monstrous act she had committed. The daughter, on the other hand, was stripped of her freedom, her dreams, and her future. The mother's actions were not just an assault on her daughter's liberty, but a brutal attack on her spirit. The girl, once full of hope and potential, was now a captive in her own home, bound by the chains of her mother's unfathomable decisions. Her life, which should have been a tapestry of milestones and memories, was reduced to a monotonous existence within 4 damp, cold walls. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, and yet the cellar remained her world, her universe. Trapped in her own home, the victim's life stalled while the world outside moved on. The eerie silence of the cellar was a constant reminder of her stolen life, a haunting echo of the joy and freedom that once was and might never be again. After 26 years of isolation, the walls of the dungeon finally crumbled. The wheel of fate took an unexpected turn on that fateful day when a concerned neighbor, unable to ignore the unnerving silence of the house any longer, decided to alert the authorities. The police, already aware of the strange circumstances surrounding the family, didn't waste any time. They arrived on the scene, prepared for the worst, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to discover. As they descended into the dank, cold basement, a sight beyond comprehension awaited them. The victim, a woman now in her early 40s, was found in a state that defied human understanding. The years of confinement had taken their toll, leaving her an eerie shadow of her former self. The air was filled with an oppressive silence, broken only by the soft, almost inaudible whispers of the woman. Her voice, a haunting melody of despair and hopelessness, echoed in the hollow confinements of her prison. The news of the discovery spread like wildfire, leaving the community in a state of shock and disbelief. The quiet town was suddenly thrust into the national spotlight, its tranquility shattered by the horrifying revelation. The authorities, grappling with the enormity of the crime, struggled to find the words to express their shock and anger. The local police chief, his face a mask of grim determination, addressed the media, vowing to bring the perpetrator to justice. The ripple effect of the news was felt far and wide. The story of the woman who had been held captive in her own home for more than 2 decades made headlines across the world. The international community reeled in shock, struggling to comprehend the depths of the depravity that had been unveiled. The shocking news of the discovery sent ripples across the world, raising numerous questions. The rescue marked the beginning of a new chapter, but the scars from the past were deep and far from healed. The victim, who had spent 26 years in the dark confines of her own home, was now free, but freedom came with its own set of challenges. She had to learn to live in a world that had moved on without her, a world that was as alien to her as she was to it. It was a slow and painful journey to recovery, filled with therapy sessions, medical checkups, and the relentless struggle to reclaim her lost years. Despite the odds, she persevered, showing an indomitable spirit that was nothing short of inspiring. Meanwhile, the mother, the architect of this horrifying reality, faced the consequences of her actions. The law was swift and uncompromising. She was tried and found guilty, sentenced to a lengthy term that reflected the severity of her crime. Her punishment served as a stark reminder that such inhumanity would not be tolerated by society. The community, too, was left shaken by the revelation. Neighbors questioned how such an atrocity could take place right under their noses, without them suspecting a thing. The incident forced them to confront their own ignorance and complacency, spurring a collective resolve to be more vigilant, more aware. But the story didn't end there. It sparked conversations and debates far beyond the confines of the local community. It made headlines around the world, compelling society at large to reflect on the importance of vigilance and community engagement in preventing such horrors. This chilling tale serves as a stark reminder of the hidden horrors that can lurk behind the most ordinary facades.